this is Tammy with Tammy Creations, and today I'm going to be talking about the different types of wire. One thing that when you first start wire wrapping, it's really important to realize that not just any kind of wire is going to work. If you have the right types of wire, it makes your life so much easier. The easiest kind of wire to work with when you're starting out is copper wire, and it's very inexpensive. Also, the gauge is important. So this particular one is 12 gauges, and the thicker the gauge, the lower the number. So a 12 gauge is really thick and very hard to bend. This is the kind of wire that you might use when you start hammering. You can hammer it and it will flatten it out, and that gives it a really neat look. Another wire, the one I really recommend starting out with, is 20 gauge round wire or square wire. And lately I've been pretty much exclusively using the square wire. I like it because it hugs the stone really nicely, and because you can twist it and it makes that nice design like this without much effort. So 20 gauge square or round wire. Another good one, and you want to make sure that you're getting the bare or raw copper, and that is the one that you can use and oxidize, and I have another video about how to oxidize your wire. If you buy one that says tarnish resistant, it's going to keep its shininess. So there's a coating over this, and that's going to, even if you try to oxidize it, it's not going to do anything. It just keeps it shiny. So if you want that, that's good. But if you don't, then make sure you get bare or raw copper. This is half round wire. This is really nice. I didn't have this in the beginning, and you don't really need it right away, but it's very handy for when you're doing your connections. So for example, on this cabochon, I used the half round wire, and it's round on one side, and that's the side you'll see on the outside, and then flat on the inside. And it just keeps it from being bulky. It also will, when you squeeze it down, it will stay flat and it's not going to come apart here. If you don't have half round and you need to connect your wires, you can do, let's see, like I did on this one, you can do a little weave, and that will keep your wires connected. Let's see. Also, let me just show you, you can buy artistic wire, and this comes, you know, at Michael's or on Amazon. This one is tarnish resistant, and you can also get sterling silver from different companies. I like to shop at Rio Grande, and I actually get, instead of sterling, I like this argentium silver, because it keeps the shine longer and has less copper in it. So you can oxidize it if you want to. I usually don't, and it will stay nice and shiny. The sterling silver does tarnish sooner. I think a lot of people oxidize the sterling silver. It's a little bit harder to work with. I think it doesn't bend quite as nicely as the argentium, so I've just sort of switched over to that. And then of course this is just silver plated wire, and it's similar to the tarnish resistant copper. If you're just starting out, those are good options, and if you're selling, of course, they're not as expensive, so you don't have to charge as much for your pieces. Now, also, you will want to get some thinner gauges, and the thinner the gauge, the higher the number. So I like to weave with 28 gauge. The 26 gauge is nice if you are adding beads to a piece. Like for example, this one, I added these beads here, and in order to make them secure, I use 26 gauge wire to secure those. The 28 gauge does work, but if someone pulled on it too much, it could just break pretty easily. Let's see, there are also different strengths. So this is half hard. I prefer dead soft. It's just really easy to work with. It's very malleable. The half hard is nice if you know exactly what you're doing, because when you make a bend, it's not forgiving. And if you make a bend in the wrong spot and you try to undo it, it just breaks in half. So the harder the wire, I've heard the shinier the finish can be, but it's also just more difficult to work with, and you have to be pretty advanced, I think. I bought this and realized that I was just breaking it, and I haven't gone back to trying to use it again. Another one that you will see at the store probably are these memory wires, and I would not recommend these for wire wrapping because they're made to keep the shape, and when you're wrapping, you want to be able to bend the wires however you want into different shapes. I think this is more for making bracelets or necklaces that are not going to be, you're not going to be changing the shape of the wire. So I hope that was helpful. My recommendations are to get 20 gauge wire. You can get silver or the copper. And if you want to oxidize, you would get the bare or raw copper. Otherwise, you can get tarnish resistant. And for weaving, I recommend the 28 gauge. If you are going to be adding beads and things, 26 gauge is good. All right, well, I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. Thank you. Bye.